After I paid off my husband's medical school loans and took care of his parents while he was in residency, his mother looked me dead in the eyes at Christmas dinner and said, "Don't get too comfortable. Doctors usually upgrade." My husband laughed and said, "Relax, she's just teasing." I stared at the ring on my finger like it was a joke. 3 months later, I took my name off his life insurance policy and put it on the title of my new condo. I met Jason when I was 27, working as a nurse at a hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina. He was 25 and finishing up his undergrad at UNC Charlotte, getting ready to apply to med school. He was smart, awkward in a charming way, and totally broke. He worked part-time at a bookstore, rode a beat-up bike to campus, and couldn't afford dinner unless we split a pizza. That didn't bother me. I wasn't in it for the money. I wanted someone kind, someone loyal. Someone who wanted a real life, not just some fantasy. He told me he wanted to be a doctor. I believed in him, and more than that, I believed we'd build something together. So I helped. When he got accepted to a med school in South Carolina, we moved. I got a transfer to a hospital nearby and picked up night shifts. I paid most of the rent. I covered his textbooks, scrubs, groceries, everything. He kept saying, "When I graduate, it'll be worth it. I'll take care of you." I was patient. I ignored the small things. How he'd zone out when I talked about our future, how he'd never show up to my family events, how I did all the cleaning and cooking while he studied. I kept telling myself he was just tired, stressed, overworked. Then his parents lost their house in Charlotte. They called in a panic, and Jason looked at me like it was up to me to fix it. "We can't let them be homeless," he said. I didn't have much of a choice. I let them move in. 2 extra adults in our cramped 2-bedroom apartment. His mom acted like it was her house from day one. She criticized everything. The way I cooked, the way I dressed, how I kept the bathroom. I'd come home from a 12-hour shift to her sitting on the couch, asking why the laundry wasn't folded. Jason never stood up for me. "She's just old school," he'd say. "She doesn't mean anything by it." He always had excuses. For her. For himself. For everything. After he graduated and matched for his residency in Durham, I thought things would change. I'd done my part. We were finally moving forward. We'd been engaged for 6 years by then. Every time I brought up a wedding, he'd say, "Let's wait until I finish residency. Then we'll do it right." I bought that lie. Again. We moved into a nicer place in Durham, and I finally thought I could breathe. Just a little. But that Christmas, everything snapped. We drove back to Charlotte to visit his parents. I brought gifts, wine, even baked a damn pie. I wanted things to feel warm, normal, like a real family. I made the whole Christmas dinner, ham, mashed potatoes, green beans, everything. Halfway through the meal, Jason's mom set down her fork and stared at me with that smug little smile she always had. She said, "Don't get too comfortable. Doctors usually upgrade." I blinked. I thought I misheard her. "What?" Jason just laughed. He said, "Relax, she's just teasing." I looked down at my hand. At that same ring I'd been wearing since I was 29. I was 35 now. The ring looked like a joke. No one else at the table said a word. That night, I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed beside him, while he snored like nothing happened. I stared at the ceiling, and realized I'd built my life around someone who saw me as temporary. The next morning, I made a decision. Quiet. Sharp. Over the next few weeks, I changed everything behind his back. I started with the life insurance policy, took my name off his, and made sure he wasn't on mine. I opened a new bank account in my name only. I stopped paying toward his student loans. I even started therapy just to make sure I didn't blame myself. Then I bought a condo. Small, but nice. Brand new. I used the savings I'd set aside for our wedding, the one we were never going to have. I put it in my name. Just mine. When I told Jason I was staying in Charlotte one weekend to visit a friend, I was signing the paperwork. I moved half my things there while he was working nights. He didn't notice. He never asked where I'd been. He never asked anything. Jason didn't notice the missing clothes. Not the box of books I took. Not the jewelry. Not even the empty drawer in the bathroom where I kept my face creams. He was too busy. Always exhausted from residency. Always glued to his phone when he wasn't on call. Sometimes, I'd sit across from him at dinner, and he wouldn't say a single word. I could have vanished right then, and he probably wouldn't have looked up. I started sleeping at the condo on my days off. I kept up the lie for a few more weeks, saying I picked up extra shifts or that I was helping a friend with her sick kid. He just nodded and went back to scrolling. One night, I was at the condo watching TV when my phone buzzed. A message from his mom. "You'll never be one of us. Just give it up." I hadn't spoken to her in weeks. I didn't even know she had my new number. It rattled me, but it didn't surprise me. I didn't reply. I just blocked her. A few days later, Jason came home acting strange. We hadn't talked much in days, but suddenly he wanted to sit down and have a serious conversation. "I think we need space," he said, eyes on the floor. "I've been thinking about us, and I don't know if this is working." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I had already left. I kept my voice steady. "Okay." He blinked. "Okay. Yeah," I said. "You want space? Take it." He looked confused, like he expected a fight. He always did the pushing. He never thought I'd walk away first. Then came the real twist. A week later, I found out from a friend who still worked at the hospital that Jason had been seeing someone. A med student. Younger. Blonde. Smart. She'd done a rotation at his hospital. They'd been meeting up after hours. Suddenly, his mom's comment made even more sense. She knew. She probably encouraged it. That was the last bit I needed. I went quiet. I didn't scream, didn't confront him right away. I needed more. Asked my friend if she could find out the girl's name. She texted it to me the next day. I looked her up on social media. Private account, but enough tagged photos to confirm it. One picture showed Jason's hand on her waist at a Christmas party. That party was the same weekend he told me he had to cover a night shift. I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I made a list. Every bill I'd paid. Every transfer I'd made to his loan accounts. Every medical expense. Every rent check. Every grocery run for his parents. I collected receipts. Bank statements. Texts. Emails. Photos. And I waited. Add more story twist, but still keep the details consistent. No ending yet. A few weeks passed. I barely saw Jason. When he came home, he was distant. Cold. Sometimes he didn't come home at all. I didn't ask where he was. I already knew. Then one Saturday morning, his mom showed up at our place in Durham. I was there alone, packing up the last of my things. She must have thought Jason would be there. She barged in like she owned the place. "I knew you'd run," she said, eyeing the boxes. I didn't look up. No, I didn't run. I planned. She walked into the kitchen and crossed her arms. "You think some condo makes you better than us?" I turned to face her. "I think leaving was the smartest thing I've done in 8 years. She smiled. Not kindly. "You're not the first girl to try to tie him down. You won't be the last." That stuck with me. Not the first. Not the last. This wasn't just a phase. Jason had done this before. Probably during med school. Maybe even before that. And I was just the one dumb enough to stick around, to pay for everything. I let her talk. Let her spit her little venom. Then I handed her an envelope. It was thick. Heavy. She frowned. "What's this?" "Itemized list," I said. "Of everything I ever paid for." She scoffed. "You think we're going to pay you back?" I smiled. "No. But your son's about to find out what all of it costs." 2 days later, I hand-delivered a folder to Jason's hospital. I didn't care who saw. I asked the front desk to give it to him during break. Inside was everything. Proof of the money I'd sent to his accounts, the loan payments made from mine, receipts from the years I supported his parents. I'd highlighted key totals. On top, I'd written a single sentence. "This is what it costs to make you who you are. Good luck explaining it to the ethics board." Because here's the twist. Jason had used my money. not just for school, but to cover expenses listed under his financial aid declarations. He'd lied about receiving outside help on government forms. That's fraud. I had proof. And I wasn't bluffing. I also attached screenshots of messages between him and the med student, pulled from a synced tablet he forgot was still logged into our shared Google account. Explicit messages. Pictures. Dates that matched hospital schedules. I didn't send it to the hospital yet. I gave him the chance to do the right thing. He didn't. Instead, he came home that night furious. What the hell is wrong with you? I didn't flinch. You lied. You cheated. You used me. He threw the folder onto the counter. You're going to ruin my career. I stared him down. You already did. He paced the kitchen, breathing heavy. Look, I made mistakes, but you don't need to destroy my life. I cut him off. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just telling the truth. He stared at me. For the first time in years, he looked scared. And then he said something I'll never forget. You were never supposed to matter this much. I felt that in my chest. But I didn't cry. I just nodded. Good to know, I said. Now, let's see how much the truth matters. Jason didn't come home for 3 days after that. I heard from a mutual friend that he was crashing at one of the hospital's call rooms, or maybe at his new girlfriend's place. I didn't care. I was too busy finishing what I started. First, I filed a formal report with his medical program's ethics board. I submitted copies of the financial documents. Bank statements, loan disbursements, the FAFSA discrepancies. I didn't write a dramatic letter. Just the facts. Cold and simple. Then I sent the messages between him and the med student to the hospital's HR anonymously from a new email. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. Within a week, Jason was put on administrative leave pending an investigation. I found out through another nurse I used to work with in Durham. Apparently, he had a full meltdown in the parking lot. Security had to walk him out. He showed up at my condo that night, pounding on the door. I didn't answer. He screamed through the door. You think this makes you better than me? You ruined my life, you bitch. And then quieter. Please. Just talk to me. Please. I sat on the couch inside, drinking tea, staring at the door. I didn't move. Eventually, he left. The hospital put out a quiet internal notice weeks later. Jason's residency was terminated. The med student? She was reassigned to another program in a different state. Her dad was on the board of the hospital, and I guess that helped her keep her name out of the mess. Jason didn't get that same favor. Turns out, when you lie on federal forms about your financial status, it doesn't just threaten your license. It can be considered student loan fraud. They started looking into his records. It didn't take long for things to spiral. Fines. Legal reviews. He was drowning. His mom tried to call me again. This time from a different number. I didn't answer. But here's the part one haven't said yet. The part where I made a mistake. I gave 8 years of my life to a man I never really knew. I thought I was helping him become something better. But the truth is, I didn't want to face how little he gave in return. I stayed quiet for too long. I thought love meant loyalty no matter what. But love without respect is just survival. And I was tired of surviving. So I sold the condo. I used the profits to start a small business, an elder care consulting service in Charlotte. I kept my nursing license, but now I work for myself. No more double shifts. No more cleaning up after grown men with empty promises. Last I heard, Jason was working under the table at a private clinic 2 states away, barely scraping by. He never got his license back. He still owes thousands. And me? I sleep better now. Not because I ruined his life, but because I finally remembered mine was worth something. Even if it took burning everything down to see it.